All right, there we go. Welcome back to Focus Today. What a delight and an honor to have back with us Dr. Herb London. He is the president of the London Center for Public Research. He's a co-author of an incredible read called The Encyclopedia of Militant Islam. And you can get the books online, and I encourage you to read this one. It's pretty impacting. The Encyclopedia of Militant Islam. Dr. London, what an honor to have you. I see the results of your center all over the country.
Well, you're very kind. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for your time. We value it greatly. Well, tonight's the big night, the vice presidential debate, and you've had an interesting relationship with Mike Pence. Were you one of the guys that kind of said, hey, go for Congress?
Well, I was a regular on Mike Pence's radio program, and in fact, the first person to ever appear on his TV program in Indianapolis. So I've known Mike for a long time. Did encourage him to go into politics. I think he's been an extraordinary congressman, obviously respected on both sides of the aisle, and has turned out to be a pretty good governor. So I think the guy has vast experience, is very knowledgeable, and certainly has an understanding of the issues. So I think he's a great vice presidential running mate.
Were you surprised that he was picked over Newt Gingrich?
Not really. I think that he provides a certain kind of gravitas and a kind of presidential quality that Newt doesn't have. Newt is a person who has 1,000 ideas every 10 seconds, throws them against the wall. Some of them stick, some of them do not, but a very different kind of personality. I think Newt clearly has a role to play in the next administration, assuming it's a Trump administration, but I think Mike Pence was a better vice presidential choice.
All right, Mike Pence is going into the race, or excuse me, into the debate tonight, up about 2 points from Senator Kaine. What would be your advice to Mike Pence tonight before the debate?
Well, I think that there will be throwing a lot of charges at Mike about Donald Trump. The first, of course, will be his taxes, and then comments that have been made about this woman who was obviously involved in the Miss Universe contest. I would say if I were Mike, I would throw it right back at them. That is, if they were to say something about the taxes and say, well, let's talk about taxes, and let's talk about the Clinton Foundation. Have you paid taxes on the Clinton Foundation? And if so, let's talk about the actual financial arrangements that you have here. Is it a pay-to-play arrangement? Have you used the State Department in order to promote various activities for the Clinton Foundation? It appears, at least appears, as if this is the case. Now keep in mind, during the last debate, Hillary Clinton engaged in some speculation about Donald Trump's taxes. I thought that that was an opening for Donald Trump to say, well, if we're going to speculate about my taxes, let's speculate about your role with the emails as well as the foundation and the relationship between the concealment of so many of these emails and what was going on at the foundation at the same time. I think that's an opening for Mike, and I think he will probably handle it very skillfully.
It's a tricky thing to go into tonight's debate because you don't want to outshine the person that you're running with, and yet you want to show that you are capable because you're a heartbeat away from the presidency. How important do you think this is to the American people tonight?
Well, I think it is important. I think that the race is very close. What separates Donald Trump from Hillary Clinton is something on the order of 4 or 5 points, not very much. A lot will depend on whether people have confidence in the vice presidential running mate. So this race or this debate takes on far more importance than it would under ordinary circumstances. This is not an ordinary campaign. This is not an ordinary circumstance. So my feeling is it does take on a certain kind of importance. And Mike has to be able to display the fact that he has the qualities necessary to be president should Donald Trump be in a position where he cannot exercise authority over the role.
All right. A lot of people are concerned that both of these candidates are going to be pulled into the mud fight between the two presidential candidates, and none of the real issues will be talked about. What do you think?
Well, I think that that's inevitable. I think that they will be drawn into it. It's a question of how it's handled. As I've indicated, one of the things that you can do to offset the charges that will be made by Mr. Kaine is to say, look, if you want to engage in those charges and you want to engage in some speculation, then let's make sure that what's good for the goose is good for the gander. And let's also talk about the speculation of the Clinton Foundation. I think that's fair game. I think that that's an appropriate way to begin. And then I would say, look, I don't really want to get into the weeds here on these silly issues, distractions. Let's talk about national security. Let's talk about the role that the President of the United States will play in offsetting the influence of ISIS and militant Islam. And then let's talk about the economic issues that make a difference for Americans.
Well, I hope that happens. You know.
Look, this issue, this election is a little different from others in the past. People always talked about the bread and butter issues. That is your wages, the job that you have, Social Security, what's happening to the economy, GDP growth. This is different. The issue, the overarching issue, will be national security. It will be, can you protect the American citizens at home and American interests abroad? That is the issue. And I think that it's very important for Mike Pence to say to the American people, you don't want war. We know that. Americans do not want war. But war wants you. The war is here. The war is in New York City on 23rd Street. The war is in San Bernardino. The war is in Boston and Boston Marathon. The war is in Chattanooga. The war is in San Bernardino. It's in Orlando. You cannot avoid it. What are we going to do to make sure that Americans are secure in their homes and with their families? That is the issue.
You know, given that topic, Dr. London, I think one of the questions that Mike Pence could ask of Senator Kaine tonight, that how could we possibly believe that a President Hillary Clinton would protect 438 million Americans in their homeland when she can't protect 4 Americans in Benghazi?
I think that is exactly the right way to put it. Not only can she not protect 4 Americans in Benghazi, the loss of their lives is due in large part to the fact that Hillary Clinton did not provide the kind of reinforcements that were requested time and time again. And she saw in real time what was going on and did nothing to support the 4 Americans who fought so bravely to save their colleagues and their friends who were trying to escape from the throes of that kind of terrible, terrible conflict. Now, this was not spontaneous. This was an organized event, and she did nothing to support those Americans. If you were a SEAL like Ty Woods, you're asking the obvious question from the grave, why didn't the American government do anything to support me? And why was the Secretary of State sitting on her hands, looking at this event and doing nothing to provide support?
Why do you think Donald Trump didn't go through that wide open door during the first debate?
I think Donald Trump got caught up with a variety of issues that have nothing at all to do with the central issue of this campaign. I think it was disappointing from my perspective, and what happened is that Trump started to explain why he was opposed to the war in Iraq and went through his analysis from the Howard Stern show to a variety of other issues. He got so caught up in this, he lost sight of what is the real issue during this campaign.
One quick question, Dr. London, before I take a break. How do you justify in your mind, without becoming totally frustrated like a lot of us, that in spite of all these scandals and in spite of all this nonsense with the Clintons, she's still ahead?
Well, if Dumbo were running on the Democratic line, Dumbo would get 47% of the vote. If Mickey Mouse were running on the Democratic line, Mickey Mouse would get 47% of the vote. So there are people who vote reflexively. I've said to many of my Democratic friends, do you think Hillary Clinton is trustworthy? The answer, no. Do you think that she's lied? Yes. Do you think you could trust her in a situation where the United States was at war with Russia or China or with a militant Islamic nation? No, we cannot trust her. Will you vote for her? Yes. Why? Because they are opposed to Donald Trump. It's not a pro-Hillary vote. It's an anti-Donald Trump vote. And so the Democrats today are ahead in large part because of the distrust of Donald Trump. If Donald Trump can get his act together and make the arguments effectively, as I believe he can, if he will start to talk about the national security question and using the terms that I employed today, I think he will be ahead in a week. Keep in mind, a poll is a photograph, a campaign is a montage. We've got to see the changes occur, and I believe they will occur if the right issues are discussed. And I think you'll start seeing that tonight in the vice presidential debate.
Take a quick break here. What an honor to have with us back today is Dr. Herb London. He is the president of the London Policy for Public Research. By the way, you can go to londoncenter.org and check out the book that he's co-authored. It's a must-read, The Encyclopedia of Militant Islam. We'll be right back with Dr. London in just a moment.